Hello and welcome to this special edition of The Boys. Of course, there are guest appearances by Morgan as she grew up with them. And as you can see down below here, we've got little Teekers who's helping me with the recording and tell the stories. She's been with us for a year. If you haven't seen the latest update, and yes, she is in her forever home and a happy little camper. So years ago, we used to be dog owners as well as cat owners. And these are our boys. Wolf, he was a full bred. He was a full-size Pomeranian. And Storm, our white guy there, was an Eskimo Spitz. They were quite the little characters, always on guard duty, and of course enjoyed relaxing around the house. Wolf was our outdoor boy. He loved being outside, whatever the weather was bizarre, even if it was insane raining in a thunderstorm, he loved being outside. So here he's surveying the yard from his deck, if you'd ever asked him. And Storm, on the other hand, loved being out in the dirt. So here he's enjoying just hanging out in one of my flower beds. Excuse me. And Storm was with us for 9 years, and Wolf was with us for 15. Wolf, as I say, loved the outdoors. If you've seen any of my earthing videos, you can tell how different the yard has become since we've no longer had dogs running around outside. To the boys, this was a huge football field where they always had fun running and just having a great time. Of course, because they were smaller dogs, I also used to go out and shovel paths for them so that when we did have snow, they could still get out and about. And yes, this is more of a normal winter amount of snow than what we've just had in 2023. Wolf loved being groomed, loved his bandanas. It was never good when we had to change the bandana and he would just fight with you the whole time. Storm, on the other hand, wasn't a bandana kind of boy, so he went, of course, for grooming with his brother, but bandanas weren't his thing. And this is when I started making some changes in the yard, and we'd put a fence up along the west side where I started taking out some of the grass, and Storm was definitely not impressed. Wolf, our little man, always on guard duty, such a little character and such a clown. I don't know if other dog owners have noticed this. When Wolf was off the leash, he was like Mr. Friendly, wanted to meet everyone, that type of thing. But when he was on the leash, he was like Mr. Guard Duty, would take on anybody. And that would include massive dogs, which could sometimes become a bit interesting when you were out and about. So it's a good thing he was usually home with his brother. Tiki's now going to make life interesting, walking around. Oh, there we go. She's going to settle for the cubes. Wolf, definitely the nature boy. Like I say, he loved the great outdoors, playing in the grass, chasing things. And yeah, he was just an awesome little guy. His name, by the way, Wolf, is because his coat was called Wolf Sable. He had all the colors of the Pomeranians in him. Excuse me, allergies. And he was just a beautiful, beautiful boy, and he just looked like a baby wolf his whole life. I remember before we had to say goodbye, we were in for an appointment and someone asked us how old our puppy was, and we told them 15 years old. He was quite the character, full of love, full of life, but sadly, he had kidney disease, and we had to say goodbye after 15 years. Storm, definitely an indoor cuddle, happy his whole life boy. So blessed to have had him. We sadly had to say goodbye when he was 9 because he'd had heart disease. And yeah, it's a shame, but he was such a sweet, sweet boy. And we miss them definitely both dearly. Wolf, and here again you can see just how different my yard is in 2024 compared to, excuse me, compared to this would have been, oh, I stink at math. It's been over 10 years since we said goodbye to Wolf, so that would be 2014. A couple years before that, we had to say goodbye to Storm. So this is somewhere in the mid 2000s, I guess, 2010-ish. So you can definitely see what a massive change there has been to the yard. And this was, of course, before I started oh no, you can see the fence here. So this was where I originally started taking out the grass and putting in plants and changing things. And as you can see, I have a number of paths cleared here for Storm, who's probably somewhere else at the moment, and Wolf, who's deciding which way to go. These little guys, it's actually funny. These are the Catani asters that I have currently. All right, let's hope Tiki doesn't hit a bad key here. These are the Catani asters that if you've seen some of my newer earthing videos, fill up the entire back here and are now well over 6 feet tall. So it's a good thing we moved them from beside the deck. And of course, our deck looks very different now than it did with the boys. This was winter solstice, the first year that we had Morgan. She was found when my husband was trimming trees along this back fence. They heard this little meowing and they found this little kitten. Thankfully, someone was watching over her. She didn't have any injuries. She was in good health and she joined our family. Wolf loved her from the moment she came in because he had grown up with my first cat, Cass. So he was very familiar with having a cat in the home, and I know that he missed Cass when we had to say goodbye. Cass had been with us for 14 years. So he was very happy to have a cat in the home. Storm wasn't too sure what a cat was, but they eventually worked things out. And Morgan wasn't even 3 pounds when we found her, and she was just a going concern. So we had her safely in a room because we wanted to be sure that Storm wasn't going to be a problem. Wolf, we knew from the get-go, was fine with her. So we had the baby gate, and right from the get-go, she was up and trying to get over. A few months later, she grew into that big long tail of hers. As you can see, a difference in height, and it was amazing how quickly she got tall. We will, of course, never know how old she was when we found her, but they figured maybe 8 to 9 weeks old. So we were blessed. We had her with us for 14 years. And yeah, it was just a few weeks that She was out and about somewhere else. We have no idea how she ended up behind our fence, but we were so grateful that she did and that we found her. Like I say, she was a little tiny tot when she arrived, and this is after we had her separate for a little bit, and we were sure she and Storm were going to be okay. He was our backyard hunter. It was a bit freaky how quickly he could get a mole when he was outside and just go full tilt. And of course, Morgan being so tiny, we were worried he'd think she was something to hunt. But thankfully, they worked everything out. And it was funny. He'd let her ride his neck down the hallway. That was like their funny game. When the boys came back inside, Morgan would meet them at the back door and basically come riding down the hallway on Storm. It was a bit creepy at first because there she was right near his mouth, but he had decided nope, he loved his little sister and they were all good. She was super tiny. This is the boy's water bowl. At first, she was fascinated because, of course, she could see herself in it. And she continued to grow bigger. And, like I say, grew into that big tail of hers. If you've seen some of the other TGIF and kid videos, you've seen memories of Morgan. And yes, she became a very big girl. Although she was under 3 pounds when we found her, she was, I think, 23, 24 pounds as an adult. She was a very big girl, big paws, big tail, sweetheart. And here, Storm's teaching her the joys of living indoors and having a comfy bed. Morgan, after she came in, never went back outside other than in a carrier for her vet appointments. And it was amazing. She just knew not to go outside. She'd go to the back door when the boys were heading out, but she never tried to go outside with them. Like I say, she'd wait at the back door when they'd be coming back in and race down the hallway with them. That was one of their favorite things to do. Next to, of course, hanging out on a bed or furniture and just enjoying their time together. This, of course, is dinner time, and Storm and Wolf doing their, hey, what are we going to get off the plate? Morgan would always sit there with them, but she had no interest in people food, whatever. She also wasn't a fan of moist food. She loved her cat kibbles, and that was good. Actually, I'm trying to think. She did enjoy crackers, but not really much human food at all. She was very selective about her diet, even though she was a big girl. So again, just such a teeny little thing when we found her. So adorable. Yeah, I'm laughing because, I mean, I remember we just said goodbye to her in 2019. So usually when I think of Morgan, I think of our full-sized girl that she had been for a long time. So looking back at these is a hoot because, yeah, she could literally fit in my hand when she first came in that October when my husband found her. As she got bigger, of course, she liked sharing yard duty with her brother, or guard duty with her brother Wolf. Storm must be somewhere else at this time, or this could also be sadly after we had said goodbye to Storm, and Wolf and Morgan were quite close and always hung out together regardless. So that was a blast from the past when we used to be dog owners. We now have 3 cats. We have Xena, Panther, and Tiki, who you would have met in some of the earlier videos. We used to have 6 cats, and they're all rescues. Like I say, we found Morgan in our backyard. Cedric was also a backyard rescue who adopted us. Sadly, someone had dumped her off. She followed me while I was doing yard work, and the third day came up to me. So we were blessed to have her. She had her kittens in our basement. That's how Ghost and Xena came to live with us. We found homes for the other 3 kittens that Cedric had. Panther and his brother Shadow, were also rescues from our backyard. They were part of the feral colony, and they adapted to indoor living, stayed inside, and we now have 4 cats left in the feral colony. We were involved with trap, neuter, release. I have a video about that story as well, the feral colony and condo living. And yeah, then, and Tiki, who we had adopted us a year ago. So that's all the kid adventures and a short summary of the kids. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, be sure to give that like button a little tickle. Leave me a comment down below. And if you haven't subscribed already and you enjoy content of a bookish nature, nature videos, silly cats, and maybe sometime a few more dog videos, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Until next time, take good care.